Let's get started. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Hello everyone. So in today's opportunity, we are going to discuss about English for specific purposes. So this is the materials for this week. ESP. Alright, so what and why is ESP? So this is the sort of phenomena why ESP emerged. There is a new job market offering employment, for example, in hotels, hospitals, constructions, or manufacturing, welcomes workers with specific occupational skills and, more importantly, the ability to interact in specialized form of English. So then it is not enough for English learners to only master general English. So then we provide a program what is called as English for specific purposes, which is specialized in a certain term and disciplines. So because of the job market opportunities, right? So because the general English terms is much different than specialized form of English. For instance, we have a term called, for instance, the word interest. The word interest in general English means interest, your hobby. It can be your hobby. It can be your likeliness to do things. But then in a faculty of economics, interest means something prohibited in Islam. It is taking more profit beyond the loan. Okay. So basically, why we need to teach a specialized form of English, because different area needs different specific terms of English. Another thing, other than job market, it is because of the internationalizations. Because our world becomes so global, and English becomes the global language, and then people talk uh, to everyone else in English. So it is mentioned previously, it is because of working life. So migrant worker can work in one country to another. So when they master English, so then they can easily absorb or accepted in so-called international corporate. And because we also uh, concerned about different situation and purpose, such as a different job field will require different term of English. And then subject specific syllabus. So then in ESP, we also concerned about how to design subject specific syllabus. So vocational English is one way of opening up opportunities to continue learning and adapting to an international working life. So by establishing a program which focuses on specific disciplines or specific terms, and then we prepare our students to be adaptable, to be international worker. Okay. In a simple way, ESP is defined as English as second language course that focuses on specific needs of learners, or we call it specific purposes and specific disciplines. However, this definition is far too simple from what ESP has been discussed recently. The main aspect, though, is the specific needs of learner in learning English. ESP commonly related to English for nursing, mechanical, engineering, computer science, and so on. So here's the diagram how it's actually ESP branches. And we look at the picture here. ESP, we have very different branches. The first one is English for academic purposes, and English for professional purposes, English for occupational purposes. So it also divides into more diverse subjects or disciplines. Yeah, so then it comes English for academic writing, English for law studies, English for health sector, and then English for nursing, English for the hospitality industry. Hospitality means tourism and stuff. English for hotel receptionist. So in our department, we have English for hospitality, so it deals with those things. Right. So ESP is deemed to be effective as it covers the real and immediate needs of learners. Apart from that, the fact that the specificity means less teaching loads than the general one does turn apparently into the strength of ESP. So because it focuses on the specific term, so I think the teaching load is less than the general one. Okay, so when we talk about ESP, English for Specific Purposes, we also will be familiar with a term called need based or need analysis. As ESP sets out to teach the language and communication skills that specific groups of language learners need or will need to function effectively in their disciplines of study, professions, or workplaces, a thorough and valid needs assessment needs to be conducted to identify the needs. Now, because we are going to design a specific uh, English for different students in certain disciplines, so then we as the course designer or course developer needs to know what actually our students really need in their workplace. So then we need to do what is called as need analysis or need based assessment. All right, so here are some of discussions we need to take into concern when we discuss about ESP. The first one is target situation analysis. So we need to see where is actually the English word will be used. So we need to analyze what is actually the target situation. And next is discourse analysis. Which discourse will the English terms use? And then present situation analysis, or we call it the lack. What is actually the students have not mastered in their mind, in their mastery. So we need to analyze our students' present situation. What is what needs to be fulfilled in our students. So then next is learner factor analysis. So we need also to take concern on students factor. Another thing is teaching context analysis. So we need to see whether our programs that we're going to design is suitable to our teaching context or not. All right, so target situation analysis. In doing this analysis about target situation, we do identify of tasks, activities, and skills learners are or will be using English for, what the learner should ideally know and be able to do. And we need to understand what kind of English that our students will use. And then what is it for? Is it for tourism industry? Is it for hospital care? Is it for um, is it for international relations or what? Okay, so in these situations we need to see the target situations. Next, let's move to the discourse. So discourse basically deals with what is actually the descriptions of the language used in the field. In present situation analysis, identification of what the learners do and do not know can or cannot do in relation to the demand of target situation. So we basically analyze what is our students' weakness or our students' lack of the English knowledge. And then learner factor, I think it is simple. We need to identify learners' factors such as their motivation, how they learn, and their perceptions of their needs. Teaching context analysis, we identify factors related to the environment in which the course will run. Consideration is taken what realistically the ESP course and teacher can offer. Need analysis, cannot only be seen as the initial stages, but also the ongoing process to understand learners' needs so as to provide the real and immediate needs of the learners. The results of need analysis can also be evaluated. Need analysis can be done initially prior the course started, but then it can also be done in the middle during the process of the teaching and also in the end as the evaluation. So it is not one stop process, but it can be continuously done through the teaching processes. So the next is investigating specialist discourse. It is important that ESP should be deep in a way that ESP teachers understand the specialist discourse. This discourse will give directions to how English is used in particular or specific target situation. The investigations of specialist discourse can be done through first ethnography, genre analysis, or even corpus analysis. Ethnography means we take concerns on the ethnography. Ethnography deals with environment, and then genre analysis. Genre means we have narrative, descriptive, recount, and stuff. So it's called genre. And corpus analysis, we deal with the vocabulary or word. For example, in economic, we should say government expenditure rather than government consumptions. What do you say? Um, Konsumsi pemerintah. So government. It is not government consumptions, but government expenditure, or we call it APBN, yeah, government expenditure. In gym, we should say training on abs rather than training on stomach or belly. Abs, is that okay? In gym, we don't say training on stomach or belly, but we say training on abs. Another thing in law, we should say everyone must be equal before the law instead of saying everyone must be equally treated by the law. Okay. And then next, how to develop ESP based syllabus. So, the investigations of the specialist discourse may suggest ideas for course design. Also, the investigations of the target situation can suggest not only the discourse but also the skill. Those elements convert to goals and objectives and further list of tasks. Therefore, ESP is not only about the teaching materials or texts but also target tasks. Remember, ESP is not only about teaching materials or tags, but also target tasks. What is actually the target task? The next thing that we need to pay attention is that ESP designers or teachers have the right to set how specific the class is going to be based on valid and justified reasons. So if we want to go into very specific areas, we may do it. So we can, there is no idea that it is too specific or too broad. So there are some components of ESP curriculums, just like the thing we do in our lesson plans. We have goals or objectives. We have also teaching materials, teaching methods or tasks. We also have assessment or evaluations. So I think it is not easy for us to establish this program. So this program is not that easy to be implemented as there are things to consider. So among others are finance. So because invite we invite more teachers because there is no in establishing this program ESP, we don't only work with language teacher only, such as let's say we are English language education department students, uh, we will not work by ourselves, but we also will work with content teacher. Do you understand the word content teacher? Such as when we teach English for biology. So the one, ideally, the one who teaches English for biology is not only language teacher, us as an English teacher, but we also need to collaborate with content teacher, the biology teacher. So then, in terms of finance, it needs financial support for the teachers because we pay, or the school or the institution not only pay the language teacher but also the content teacher. And administration and staff development, of course, when we want to establish this program, we need also to prepare our staff or administrative staff to be able to operate English. Such as in our department, we establish one day English or English day every Monday. Wait and see, have you already bought your pin? So, before establishing this program, we need to make sure that our administration or our staff have the capability of speaking English. And the other issue is also the curriculum development. We need to structure our curriculum. We need to see the needs in every department so then this program will run well. And the fourth idea is about needs assessment. As it is explained before we set the program, before we start the program, we need to do need analysis or need assessment. So that we need to ask to our students, for instance, students in biology, in English in mechanical engineering, English in health science, what do they really need on the use of English. It is in terms of vocabulary, it is in terms in situations, it is in terms of the skill they need to master more. For instance, in nursing, there's a possibility we need to study, or we need to conduct need analysis or need assessment. Which skills actually the nursing student needs more? Either it is productive one or receptive one. So that's the example. And support services. Support services is also one of the important lists here, listed in these slides. That support services in terms to provide job counseling and also job placement. One last one is cooperations. As I mentioned before, that there should be a cooperation between content teacher and also ESL teacher. That means not only language teacher by himself or herself who do run this program, but also the content teacher. Vocational English. Vocational English is to teach the language required for successful participation in training programs and for job performance. Occupational language demands are emphasized, such as training clerical workers to order supplies or take phone messages, and occupational contexts are used to teach the English needed for employment or for successful participation in vocational classes. So, vocational English is actually one of our discussion in ESP. So, I believe some of you here in this class graduated from vocational school, or we call it SMK. So, in SMK, you have already specialized in certain discipline or certain subject. So then it is good opportunity for you actually when back then when you were in high school to learn English in specific terms. For instance, when you are in computer science, majoring in computer science, for instance, you can study English in that area. Do you have vocational English before? Or general English during your high school? Okay. So, why some of you said no, you didn't have any vocational English when you were in high school or vocational school? I think it is related to first teacher competence, your teacher maybe lack of competence in terms of teacher training. Maybe when they took their bachelor degree, they didn't receive any trainings how to teach ESP or English for specific purposes. And also it deals with national curriculum. In our curriculum, if you can analyze that, there is no different major difference between curriculums in high school and also in vocational school. I think the curriculum, English curriculum, is applied in a same way. So then there is no specific English that is implemented in the curriculum. So that's the reason why someone who graduated from SMK or vocational school will not have ESP for their curriculum. Sorry. And then the next assessment. So it is also one of the weakness that our system have. In the assessment, for instance, the students in SMK are taught using English for specific purposes. For instance, you talk about procedure tags and something. You talk about descriptive tags in certain discipline, in certain major. But then the one system or final assessment you got for the country is not directed to that way. I mean that your teacher are busy with preparing you by providing like focusing more on grammar or structure. Maybe you can reflect back on your high school that your teacher taught you English in that way. They focus on drilling you how to master English sentences or English tenses, English structure. So that's our constraint why ESP or what is so called specific English doesn't doesn't okay, specific English is not being taught in our high school curriculum. Okay, that's all for the material for today. So next we are going to go with activities on LMS. Thank you for listening everyone. See you around. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.